The blind God. What if I told you that the ancient prophets and teachers said that the God you worship is blind? That's right, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower, 20-year former Christian preacher, Bible college graduate, veteran of over 100,000 hours of study in the biblical scriptures, showing you that Christianity is a fear and guilt control matrix designed to keep you in the dark. You're suffering from Stockholm syndrome, and I'm here to unindoctrinate you. I know that it's been told that it's easier to fool someone than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. That doesn't mean that I'm going to stop trying. So here we go. Let's talk about the blind God. That's right, ladies and gentlemen, the blind God. I'm going to be coming to you today out of the Nag Hammadi scriptures. The Nag Hammadi scriptures, this is what the book looks like for you on YouTube. This is what it looks like for you on Facebook and Twitter. It is basically a compilation of the Gnostic text, the Nag Hammadi scriptures, which is mainly the Gnostic text found out in the desert in the caves of Qumran along with the Dead Sea Scrolls. So we're going to talk about the blind God. And this is the continuation of our series that we kind of got off track from. The nature of the rulers. And I'm starting off with the real nature of the authorities and concerning the reality of the authorities. Now, if you read this, you have to understand that the word authorities means archons. So concerning the reality of the archons, and that's something to think about right there. You have these people that were great, learned individuals. You have these people that knew a lot about spirituality, that knew a lot about first century spirituality. Some of them likely heard the Christ speak, or at least their parents heard the Christ speak. And they said concerning the reality of the archons. So in their mind, the archons were real. In their mind, the archons are real. Who are the archons? Well, they're the beings that work with, support, and are the rat bastard. And we've got a closed-minded person. Jesus is the only way to God in heaven. Well, Jesus wasn't even real. And your God is Charles Manson, a mini-me Charles Manson. Well, your God is a Charles Manson on steroids, and we're going to talk about that. Well, what do I know? I'm just a Bible college graduate and have 100,000 hours of study in the Christian scriptures and was a full-time minister for 20 years. So what do I know? But the leader of the authorities, concerning the reality of the archons, the great apostle, through the Spirit of the Father of truth, referred to the authorities of darkness and told us our struggles not against flesh and blood, but against the authorities of the world and the spirits of wickedness. I've sent you this writing because you've asked about the real nature of these authorities. Now, of course, the great apostle referred to here is Paul. Now, I don't know, because if you read in Gnostic thought, they considered Paul the great deceiver. They considered Paul a liar. So I have to think that this writer of the nature of the rulers calling Paul the great apostle is probably very tongue-in-cheek. It's probably very sarcastic. And in fact, it's probably an insult. But be that as it may, Paul did talk about the authorities of darkness. If you remember in the book of Ephesians, Paul said we don't wrestle against flesh and blood, but against authorities and rulers and wicked spirits in the heavenlies. Now, many times, and we haven't quite figured out yet why, but the rulers of evil, including Paul, who was evil to the core, Paul told some truths sometimes. Every skilled liar, I mean, let's face it, folks, every skilled liar has got to weave in some truth every now and again in order to make his message believable. Every now and then, a liar has to work in some truth. So every now and then, Paul dropped in some truth, like the fact that there are spiritual authorities that we are fighting against. So just because Paul said it doesn't mean that it's not true. Because remember, the skilled liar will employ and drop some truth now and again. This is what Paul did here when he told us that there were authorities and rulers and wicked spirits in the heavenlies with which we wrestle against. And really, our battle isn't even with flesh and blood, is it? It's with these wicked rulers and spirits, but yet we battle the flesh and blood to be able to get us to the place where we can battle those spirits. So anyway, the archons are what Paul was referring to in Ephesians, that's Ephesians chapter 6, I think starts at verse 12. That's what he was talking about. So he let us in, he let us know. For some reason, they mix in truth with deceit, hoping you just discard the info. That's what Nick says, and for whatever reason, they do. But here comes the fascinating thing. The leader of the archons is blind. Did you hear that, ladies and gentlemen? The leader of the archons is blind, just like this poor blind person up here on Twitter who's so encapsulated by their own fear that they follow people that are just there to milk them and bilk them. This person is so entrapped in the fear and guilt control matrix of Christianity that they can't even open their eyes and see that the God they serve is blind. The leader of the archons is blind. The leader of the archons is Yaldabaoth. The leader of the archons is Sackless. That's his name, Samael. The leader of the archons is Jehovah. The leader of the archons is Yahweh. The leader of the archons is Lord, and the Lord is blind. This makes so much sense because when you think about it, the Lord, who's supposed to be this big, bad, burly, I'm so angry, I'm so vengeful, I'm so jealous, I'm a big, mean God. But the big, mean God is a poussoir because he never does anything himself. Look back through the Bible, all these things that this big, mean, bad God did, he never once showed up himself and did anything. He had people do the things. When the Lord, when Jehovah, when Yahweh was killing people, he wasn't even killing people himself. He had people kill people. Just like Charlie Manson. Charlie Manson goes to jail and you worship a being that does same thing that Charlie did, far, 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 far more and far, 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 far worse. I thought he was just a baby. I thought he was just a coward. I thought he was just a little, it's 3 a.m. I thought he was just a little biatch. I thought the Lord, Yahweh, Jehovah was just afraid. But maybe the reason why he won't kill anybody himself is because he's blind and he can't. And he's so busy saying how bad he is. He's so busy saying how strong he is. He's so busy saying how scary he is. Because he's overcompensating for the fact that he's blind. The God that you worship is blind. The God that you worship is a coward. The God that you worship is Charlie Manson on steroids. At least Charlie had the courage to show his face. The God of the Bible doesn't even have the courage to show his face because he's a coward and he's blind. And because of his ignorance and arrogance, he said, I am God and there is none other but me. What a laughable assertion. There's no other God but me. I'm the only one. There's thousands, if not hundreds, of gods. And he's so arrogant and he's so blind. He says he's the only one. Even in the Christian scriptures, in that Psalms 82, it says, the God stood among the gods and judged between the gods. Elohim means gods and goddesses more than one. The fourth word in the Bible shows that there's more than one God. And this egomaniac that some of you still insist on worshiping is blind and stupid. He thinks he's the only God. Now, he knows he's not the only God. He's just trying to convince you that he's the only God. When he said this, he sinned against the realm of the all. So when he said, I'm the only God, he created a great sin against the true gods, the inexpressible ones. And he created a great sin against all of the other gods. Why don't you just go away? I don't want you to pray for me. I just want you to go to bed in your mom's basement and get off of the Twitter, because no one ever listens to you. And the only reason you're putting stuff up is because now thousands of people have to see what you say. Get a life. And please leave me alone. He sinned against the realm of all the other gods, the illimitable gods, and the boast rose up to the incorruptible ones. His voice rose up to the incorruptible ones. This assertion that I'm the only God, it was told to the illimitable ones. There's this minor God that's a rat bastard because his mother made him without even the help of her father. And he got thrown out of the Elohim that were making the earth because he destroyed it. And he's running around saying he's the only God. I'm not sure why they told the ultimate gods that, but they did. I didn't think they'd be that interested. And what they said was, they actually spoke to him. They said, you're wrong, Samael, which means blind God. So they called him a blind God. I wonder if they blinded him because he said he was the only God. I wonder if the illimitable gods took away his sight because he was so demented that they were afraid of what he might do. That's just speculation. His thoughts were blind. He expressed his blasphemy and pursued it down to chaos. His mother was Sophia. She established each of his offspring according to its power and the pattern of the eternal realms, for the invisible originated from the invisible. Incorruptibility looked down on the region of the waters. So the region of the waters is obviously a reference to Genesis 1:2. So Samael, the Lord, the rat bastard, had proclaimed himself the only God. He had destroyed the perfect earth that the Elohim had made. The illimitable ones said, whoa, wait a minute. They blinded him. They cast him out of the council of the Elohim. Wow. It makes so much sense when you think about it. It makes so much sense when it all comes together. And what else makes sense is getting yourself some Mystic bands. They help me sleep half the time, and have twice the energy. They help me tremendously in the gym. They help tremendously with both male and female virility. If you get the Solfegios, the white ones, they help you with astral projection and 6 other targeted spiritual activities. I just sent out a big order on Friday. Another big order goes out Monday. So you will have all of your stuff, and we've got it down to where it's smooth and it'll just be a matter of days from order to receipt. Now, these things allow us to go to, like next week, we're going to go to NASA. We're going to go to the Crystal Mine. We're going to go to Casadega Film and Orb tour. It's going to be amazing. And by purchasing Mystech, you're doing three things. Number one, you're changing your life. Number two, you're helping me help you by taking you to the great spiritual locations and paranormal locations across the country. And number three, you're also helping Mystech change the world one person at a time. So please go to my website, which is jeffreydarty.com. And that great website's right here. Click on the Mystech logo. You can look here and see which bands you want. Come on back to the site, order them. You can pay for them right here. And here's the good part, 20% discount. What's better than getting something that'll change your life? Getting something that'll change your life at 20% off. You can also get your divining rods, your t-shirts, your books. It's all right here, and it all goes to keep this work going strong, wall to wall and tree top tall. So, the incorruptible ones looked down upon the region of the waters. They saw their reflection in the waters, and they wouldn't give up. They couldn't understand the image. They couldn't understand how and why this dummy would destroy what they did. But they did look down, and they said, we're going to bring a union with light. And you think about it, as the recreation began, it started with let there be light. And there was light. Very interesting. So there we have an inside look at what actually happened. In Genesis 1:1, the gods and goddesses, more than one, male and female, that's what Elohim means, created this perfect heavens and earth. And included in that perfect heavens and earth was a being just like us, a hybrid being just like us. The Lord, Samael, Sackless, Yaldabaoth, rebelled, destroyed that earth, said he was the only God, mounted a coup d'etat. Word of it went up to heaven. My band gives me a little electric shock, says Cynthia A. Sometimes they will do that at the beginning. After a month or so, that should go away. But you know it's working. So the word got up to the illimitable ones that this guy had destroyed the earth, that this guy had started a coup. So the illimitable ones looked down and struck him with blindness. They looked down and they struck him with blindness. And you have to think that they tried to reform him. They tried to rehabilitate him, but he was so out of control, all they could do was just blind him. They do help with the immune system. The bands restore your body to the Schumann resonance, which helps you feel better, which helps you stay healthier and keeps you in optimal operating condition. So they blinded him. And doesn't it make you kind of feel stupid that for 2,000 years we've been tricked by a blind God? I don't need to make fun of blind people, but he's blind. And we have allowed him to keep us in darkness. Was Jesus real? No. Did he really die for our sins? No. And let me ask you, what sins? The Christ said that you've got the spark of divinity in you. Religion tells you you've got sin in you. Not only is he jealous, not only is he wrathful, he's also blind. Amazing. Amazing. He destroyed everything. The gods looked down and said, you know what? We can't let this continue, but I'm going to continue just a little bit. And they said, come on, let's make a human. No, this is not the gods. This is Yaldabaoth's people. And I'll tell you why we know it's Yaldabaoth's people. They said, come on, let's create a human of soil from the earth. So they formed their creature as a being entirely of the earth. Oh, that's so powerful. If you remember in Genesis 1:1, a spiritual hybrid being like the Elohim was created. That's us. Then we were destroyed. Then we were recreated. So were the majestic serpents. And then comes Yaldabaoth, the Lord, in Genesis chapter 2 and says, listen, let's make our own humans. They threw us out of the God club. They made me blind, but you know what? I'm still gonna make my own people. So he made a being entirely of the earth. Ladies and gentlemen, you don't want to be entirely of the earth, because we are not entirely of the earth. And let's please stay on point in the chat room. You are not entirely of the earth. You were not created out of the earth. That was the fake creation of Yaldabaoth. Genesis 1:26-27 talks about the creation of us, the real creation of the Elohim, the real offspring of the Elohim. And then Yaldabaoth made man out of the dust of the earth, out of the mud huts. But they couldn't get life into it. They couldn't get spirit into it. So they tricked Adam and Eve, which of course is representative of some of us. They tricked us into the mud hut bodies. And when we got in there, we were stuck. And ever since, we've been stuck, and we're just now learning how to get out of these mud hut bodies. Somebody says we're not made of mud. Well, what do you call the dust of the earth and water put together? I call it mud. And that's the condition that we find ourselves in. Spiritual hybrid beings trapped within a body that's wholly of the earth, not knowing how to get out. Some of us not wanting to get out. Some of us not caring to know who or what we are. Some of us just content to go along with the fear and guilt control matrix. If you are content, well, then you're probably wasting your time listening to me, because we are all about teaching you how to get back to who you are and not be content with what you are currently now. That's what we're all about. That's what this channel's all about. That's what all the stuff that we're doing is all about. That's what this whole thing is. That's what this whole thing is. So who had Christ consciousness? Lit T, I don't know what you mean. I'm going to stop there and answer questions now. And this Wednesday night, we will start broadcasting worldwide over 7780 KHZ. Is that kilohertz? 7780 kilohertz and 9955 kilohertz through WMRI Radio Miami, worldwide shortwave radio. Worldwide short wave radio coming up on Wednesday night. Let's head it in the chat room. You've listened to me for about 24 minutes. I'll listen to you. I'll try to remember to look up and see what people on Twitter and Facebook also have to say. I was hoping there'd be another live cast tonight. There you go. Don't allow the archons into your reality. I agree with you. I don't know about that, Doc, but the Gnostics were interesting people. Mixing in truth with deceit. Yep, that's the way they do it. Paul really didn't say, he just dropped a truth or two in with his lies. We need to make sure that we keep that. Who sounds like a flat earther? My grandpa was named Paul, but changed his name to Charles. Good for him. Something sounds funny to me with the Abraham story. Absolutely. I don't know anything about Steve Coyle. The Lord is a blood God. Any God requiring sacrifice is not a good God. Any God requiring worship is not a good God. I agree with that 100%. Act now for special discount, 20% off, ladies and gentlemen. They do all have the same stories quite a bit. Thank you, Joseph. I really appreciate that. Is the light related to the Pleiadians? I don't know. I really don't know much about the Pleiadians. You should, Dean. Somebody's talking about Daredevil. You know that's just a show, right? All right. I think we've got through just about all the questions. Secret Book of John says that the crucifixion of Jesus was fake, phony, not real. There you go. It was just a comic book long before the show. Right. I understand that. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. The God that we've been following all these years is blind. The God that we've been following all these years is blind. That's crazy. But how cool is that God, that he's blind, so we know that he's nothing to fear. We've got to stop fearing him. We've got to realize what a joke he is. We have to come to understand that he is the blind God. I'm the Christian whistleblower, Jeffrey Daugherty, bringing you the truth straight from the scriptures, not watered down, not diluted, 100% strong. I know it's strong in some little tummies. We got little tummies on Twitter that are getting all upset. That's okay. The only reason they're up at 2 a.m. is they don't even have a job to go to, and no one listens to them, so they can get on here and bother real people every now and then. But that's okay. Maybe they'll wake up. Maybe they'll wake up. Well, ladies and gentlemen, I am Jeffrey Daugherty, the Christian whistleblower. A lot of good stuff coming up this week. The shortwave broadcast, I'm going to roll out something new on the website as well. And we're going to continue to press forward. And even now that I'm healthy, we'll start getting back to our 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 broadcasts a week. And I'm looking forward to that, a day. And we will be back. Nanette says Lucifer is the great deceiver, disguises himself, but the creator is all loving. I agree 100%. I'm not going to go to NASA tomorrow. I'll be going to NASA in the next 10 days, having lunch with an astronaut and asking that astronaut all those questions that you want to ask astronauts. And I'm pretty sure I'm going to be able to videotape it. And we'll, at the very least, we'll do a live video of our tour of NASA and hopefully live video of the interview with the astronaut. That should be fun. That should be interesting. The Orb Tour live from Casadega Spiritualist Encampment. A live day at the Fort Drum Crystal Mine. Will I be doing the morning motivation? Absolutely. We do that every weekday morning. And we'll also have a couple more surprises coming up this week. The paranormal trip is in full force. We got the beaver out on the road, and we are ready to lock and load, rock and roll. Folks, please do hit the like button. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. And if you are subscribed, make sure that they didn't kick you out. And if you're on Twitter and Facebook, please go over to Jeff Daugherty's show on Facebook, or on YouTube, and subscribe. Hit that bell, and you'll know when we're live. Like I said, usually 3, 4, or 5 days. Jesus wasn't real. Jesus wasn't crucified. Jesus wasn't buried to his neck. Jesus wasn't real. This channel's full of information about it. We'll see you again from the beach, probably about 8 o'clock Eastern time tomorrow morning. And we'll be back with more from the Nag Hammadi Scriptures. I'm Jeffrey Daugherty, your Christian whistleblower, here to help you be your own guru, guide your own spirit, master your own ascension. You are the Gospel Truth Army. March on fearlessly and unindoctrinate yourselves.